Ma'am, I said move. You can't stand here. The bar came sharp and loud, cutting through the polished silence of the Sterling Tower, a 20-story glass building that glimmered like money in the downtown skyline. The marble floors echoed every footstep, every whisper. The people who walked through its revolving doors wore tailored suits and purpose. But Maya Brooks didn't. She stood near the lobby's gold-trimmed reception desk, clutching a worn leather folder to her chest. Her black wool coat looked a little too plain for the marble world around her. A small lock of natural curls had escaped her neat bun. She looked tired, not broken, just human, the kind of person the city pretended not to see. And in this moment, the man in front of her, a security guard in a tight navy uniform, saw her as something less than that. I'm waiting for someone, Maya said, keeping her voice calm. The guard, a bulky man in his mid-40s with a buzz cut and an attitude, squinted at her like she was a stain on the floor. His name tag read R. Henson. Yeah? And who exactly are you waiting for? My appointment's with Mr. Gray, she said steady. Henson scoffed, loud enough for a few receptionists to glance over. Mr. Gray doesn't take walk-ins. You think you can just stroll in off the street and talk to the owner of this place? I have a meeting, Maya said again, her voice still polite, though she could feel the stares. Her cheeks burned under the cold fluorescent light. He leaned on his belt, eyes narrowing. Let me guess, cleaning crew? Catering? Deliveries go around back. A few people waiting for the elevators chuckled quietly. Maya swallowed hard. I'm not. I said deliveries go around back. The words came out like a command. His hand gestured toward the service entrance at the far end of the lobby, the one with the gray door no one used unless they had to. She stood still. Sir, please. Henson's voice rose. Ma'am, don't make me repeat myself. Phone stopped ringing. Conversation stilled. Every sound in the lobby fell quiet except for the hum of the air vents and the click of expensive shoes pausing mid-stride. Look, I'm not here to cause trouble, Maya said softly, her throat tight. I just need 5 minutes. That's all. 5 minutes. He smirked. Lady, you need 5 minutes to get out of this building before I call the cops. That got a few people's attention. A man in a gray suit whispered something to his colleague, who smirked. A receptionist tried not to look, but her reflection in the glass gave her away. She was watching too. Maya could feel every stare like heat on her skin. Her heart thudded. She took a slow breath. You're making a mistake. Oh, am I? Henson's tone was dripping with mockery now. You got ID? Let me see your visitor badge. I was told I'd receive it when pigs fly, he muttered, shaking his head. You people always think you can walk anywhere like you belong here. There it was. The phrase that pulled the mask off. You people. The lobby felt smaller suddenly, the walls closer. Maya's hand tightened around the leather folder. Inside it were documents, contracts, deeds, names. Proof. But now, it felt like the paper weighed 1,000 pounds. Sir, I'm asking you to step aside, she said, voice trembling but clear. He laughed. Step aside? What for? You're lucky I'm not dragging you out already. And then he did. The guard took a heavy step forward, one arm motioning toward the exit. You can wait outside if you really think you got business here. When she didn't move, he grabbed her elbow. The contact sent a shock through her. Not pain, but disbelief. Let go of me, she said, the first edge of anger creeping into her tone. You heard me, Henson barked. Out. The receptionists were frozen, hands hovering over their keyboards. A delivery man stopped mid-step with his cart. Everyone watched, but no one intervened. He escorted her toward the door, hand firm on her arm. Her folder slipped from her grasp and fell to the floor, papers spilling like a deck of cards across the marble. For a second, nobody moved. The papers spread near his boots, one of them embossed with a silver seal that caught the light. Henson didn't look down. He just kept pushing her toward the exit. Next time, he sneered, don't try to play executive. Maya stopped at the doorway, breath shaky, heart pounding. She turned her head slightly, meeting his eyes. I'll be back, she said quietly. The guard snorted. Yeah, sure you will. The glass doors slid open with a soft hiss, and the cold air rushed in. Maya stepped outside, her reflection ghosting against the glass, Tired, humiliated, small in the shadow of a skyscraper that wasn't supposed to belong to her world. Inside, people went back to their routines. Conversations resumed. The sound of keyboards filled the silence that her absence left behind. Henson bent down, gathering the papers with a huff. He stacked them sloppily and tossed them on the front desk. One sheet, the one with the embossed seal, stayed on the floor, half hidden beneath his boot. It read, Sterling Tower Holdings, Transfer of Ownership, Maya A. Brooks. The elevator doors slid open with a polite chime, but the tension in the lobby was anything but polite. Everyone's eyes followed Alana as she stood there, her suitcase at her feet, her dignity hanging by a thread. The scent of expensive cologne and polished marble hung in the air, cold, sterile, and judgmental. "Ma'am, I told you to move," barked the security guard, Mark Douglas, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the lobby. He stood tall, late 40s, built like he'd never left the gym since high school, his uniform pressed to perfection. A smirk played at the corner of his mouth, that smug expression of someone enjoying their authority far too much. "I'm not causing trouble," Alana said softly, her tone calm but edged with exhaustion. "I just needed a moment to sit." Mark's hand sliced through the air, silencing her. "Don't give me attitude. You're making the guests uncomfortable. Look at this place. This isn't some bus station waiting area." Laughter bubbled from a nearby couch. Two young interns, white, dressed in sharp suits, glanced at each other, whispering. "She probably wandered in," one muttered. "Or looking for free coffee," the other replied with a snicker. The humiliation deepened. Every sound in the lobby, the hum of conversation, the ring of a distant phone, the shuffle of polished shoes, seemed to mock her. Alana swallowed hard. "I'm waiting for someone from management. I have an appointment upstairs." Mark scoffed. "An appointment? Lady, this is the Lexington Tower. Do you have any idea how many people come in here claiming they have appointments? You think I was born yesterday?" She reached into her bag carefully, trying not to appear defensive. "I have the email." But before she could show it, Mark snatched the bag from her hands. Papers spilled, her phone clattered on the marble floor, and a single gold pen rolled toward the reception desk. A hush fell over the lobby. "Hey," she exclaimed, reaching for her belongings, but Mark blocked her with one arm. "What's this, huh?" He dug through her bag like it was contraband. "You carrying something you shouldn't?" Her chest tightened. "Give it back," she said, firmer now. "You're out of line." Mark stepped closer, towering over her. "Watch your tone. You don't belong here. I've been doing this job 20 years. I can smell trouble." The receptionist, a woman with blonde hair pulled into a sleek bun, looked uneasy. "Mark, maybe." He shot her a glare. "I've got a handle." The whispers grew louder now. "Why is she even here? Crazy how bold some people are these days. Security's right. Can't just let anyone in." It was like being surrounded by 1,000 invisible fingers pointing and judging. Alana bent down, gathering her things with shaking hands. The gold pin caught her eye, engraved with her initials, A.J. Monroe. She slipped it into her pocket quietly. Mark chuckled. "Go ahead, pick up your stuff, then get out. I don't want to see you loitering around here again." Her breath caught, rage and shame warring inside her. "You're making a mistake," she managed, voice trembling. He stepped closer, his breath hot with coffee and arrogance. "You people are always saying that." The words hit like a slap. Even the receptionist looked away this time. Alana froze, not out of fear, but out of something deeper. A cold, ancient kind of pain that every black woman in America knew too well. The stares, the judgment, the assumption that she didn't belong, no matter how hard she worked, how qualified she was, how much she'd achieved. Her eyes darted toward the glass doors. Rain had started to fall outside, faint drops tapping against the window. She could walk out. She could leave. But that would mean letting him win. She straightened, adjusting her coat. "I'll go," she said evenly, "but you'll regret this." Mark smirked. "Doubt it." He opened the door and gestured toward the street. "Don't come back unless you're cleaning floors." A few people snickered. Someone even clapped. The humiliation was complete. As she stepped outside into the drizzle, the city air hit her face, sharp, cold, cleansing. She looked up at the towering glass building, its logo glimmering like a taunt. Behind those walls, decisions were made. Deals were signed. Lives were changed. And soon, hers would be one of them. Inside, Mark chuckled with the receptionist. You see that? People think they can just stroll into private property like they own the place. The receptionist forced a smile. Yeah, you were just doing your job. He leaned back in his chair, hands folded behind his head. Exactly. One day someone's going to thank me for keeping this place clean. She said nothing, because deep down, something about that woman's calm, that unshakable composure, had unsettled her. It wasn't the kind of calm that came from fear. It was the kind that came from power. As the elevator doors closed behind another wave of guests, Alana's reflection flickered faintly in the glass, drenched, silent, but steady. They didn't see her trembling hands. They only saw what they wanted to believe. Rain streaked down the tinted glass of the cafe across from Lexington Tower. Alana sat by the window, her damp curls clinging to her forehead, fingers curled around a cup of untouched coffee. The heat from a mug rose into the air, fogging the glass as she watched the building that had just spit her out like she was nothing. She took a slow breath and reached for her phone. The time blinked 9:47 a.m., 13 minutes before her scheduled meeting. Her assistant had texted 3 times. They're ready for you upstairs. Are you on your way? The legal team's waiting, Ms. Monroe. Her lips curved into a dry, almost disbelieving smile. Ms. Monroe. The words tasted different now, sharper, heavier. She looked down at the gold pen resting beside her coffee cup, still gleaming under the cafe lights. The same pen that bore her initials, A.J. Monroe. The same pen she used to sign multi-million-dollar property acquisitions. And the same pen she'd almost lost to a man who thought she was a trespasser. Alana exhaled, calm settling into her bones like a slow-burning flame. She pulled her coat tighter and reached into her bag, pulling out a small black folder embossed with the Lexington Tower logo. Inside were the closing documents for the morning, legal paperwork that would make her the sole owner of the building by 10 a.m. For the first time since the confrontation, she let herself smile, not out of arrogance, but out of quiet realization. This wasn't just a business deal anymore. It had become something else, something personal. Across the street, the lobby bustled again. The rain had driven in a stream of guests, umbrellas shaking, heels tapping, security scanning IDs. Mark Douglas stood by the front desk, laughing with another guard, completely unaware that the woman he had humiliated hadn't left the neighborhood. She was watching him, studying him, and deciding exactly how this story would end. Alana's phone buzzed again. Ms. Monroe, the board is asking for you. Should we begin without you? She typed back one simple line. No, I'll be there in 5. Then she rose, her reflection a quiet contrast against the rainy glass, composed, deliberate, unstoppable. By the time she crossed the street and stepped back into Lexington Tower, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. Her shoes clicked against the marble with slow, measured confidence. The same receptionist from earlier looked up in shock. Ma'am. Alana's gaze met hers. Not angry, not vengeful, just steady. Good morning, she said softly. I believe I have an appointment upstairs. The receptionist's lips parted, but before she could respond, Mark appeared again. Oh, you got to be kidding me. He stepped forward, posture rigid, hand already reaching for the radio on his belt. Didn't I tell you to leave? You trying to get arrested? Alana didn't flinch. I told you I had business here. Business? He barked a laugh. Lady, you really don't quit. What? You think pretending to belong will make it true? A few people turned their heads, guests, staff, delivery men, sensing another scene brewing. The receptionist's voice was small. Mark, maybe just check the... I said I got it, he snapped. Ma'am, last warning. Get out before. The sound of polished shoes interrupted him. From the far end of the lobby, a man in a charcoal suit approached, tall, mid-50s with silver hair and a tablet in hand. The air seemed to shift around him. Authority walked in with every step. Mr. Collins, the receptionist called, relief coloring her tone. Sir, she's saying she has a meeting. Before she could finish, the man smiled and extended a hand toward Alana. Ms. Monroe, you made it. We were beginning to think the rain might have delayed you. Mark froze. The lobby fell silent. Mr. Collins, Alana greeted smoothly, shaking his hand. My apologies. There was a misunderstanding at the door. He frowned slightly, glancing at Mark. Misunderstanding. Mark blinked, his hands still hovering over his radio. Wait, this is Ms. Monroe. Alana looked him dead in the eye. The same one you escorted out. Color drained from his face. I didn't know. You didn't say who you were. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. You didn't ask. A heavy silence stretched through the lobby, broken only by the hum of the fountain near the entrance. Every head turned. Even the two interns who'd laughed earlier now looked pale, embarrassed. Mr. Collins adjusted his glasses, his tone cooling. Mark, you may return to your post. Ms. Monroe and I have business upstairs. Mark stepped back stiffly, his confidence evaporating. Why, yes, sir. As Alana and Mr. Collins walked toward the elevator, the receptionist shot her a look, part shame, part awe. Just before the elevator doors closed, Alana turned her head slightly, eyes locking on Mark once more. You were right about one thing, she said quietly. I don't belong in the lobby. The doors slid shut with a soft ding. Inside the elevator, the silence was thick but calm. Mr. Collins smiled politely. I assume the paperwork is ready. It is, she said, handing him the folder. Once signed, the tower and its assets transfer under Monroe Holdings. He nodded. Congratulations, Ms. Monroe. It's quite a property. Alana's reflection shimmered in the mirrored wall, confident, composed, but there was a storm behind her calm. This building, she said slowly, has always symbolized power, the kind that decides who's worthy and who's not. Mr. Collins hesitated. You sound like you've had experience with that. Her eyes softened. Let's just say, I've seen both sides of the glass. The elevator chimed. Top floor, executive level. As they stepped out, the skyline of downtown Los Angeles stretched beyond the panoramic windows. The boardroom awaited, lined with faces that controlled millions in assets. Men and women who thought they understood power. But as Alana walked in, something in her posture silenced even them. The storm had passed outside, but the one inside her was just beginning. In that quiet moment, a seed of revelation had been planted. Not in the crowd, not in Mark, but in every person who had doubted her the moment she walked through that door. And soon, that seed would bloom into reckoning. The boardroom of Lexington Tower was perched high above the city, all glass, steel, and ego. The skyline shimmered through the panoramic windows like a crown of light. 12 men and women sat around a sleek mahogany table, their expressions polite, professional, and curious. At the head of the table stood Alana Monroe, poised, elegant, and utterly composed. Her black tailored suit hugged her figure, a quiet symbol of authority. Her natural curls framed her face like a halo of power, and her eyes, calm, unflinching, swept across the room. Mr. Collins cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for assembling on short notice. As of 10 minutes ago, the sale of Lexington Tower has been finalized. Murmurs rippled through the room. Alana remained still, her hands folded neatly before her. Collins turned toward her. It is my honor to introduce the new owner and chief executive of the Lexington Group, Ms. Alana J. Monroe. For a heartbeat, silence. Then whispers. Shock. Recognition. Waiter. One man muttered under his breath. I thought Monroe Holdings was a private equity firm. Another whispered. Never imagined. Alana smiled faintly, her gaze steady. Yes, that's me. The woman your security thought didn't belong in her own building. The air thickened instantly. Every head turned toward the glass wall, where the lobby below could be seen, tiny figures moving like ants. Down there, the man who had dragged her out now stood stiff at his post, oblivious that the woman he'd called trouble was signing his checks. Alana tapped the gold pen once against the folder. Click. The sound echoed. When I walked into this lobby an hour ago, she began, her tone calm but sharp as glass. I was treated like a criminal. I was accused, shouted at, and thrown out because of how I looked, not who I was. No one moved. I didn't announce myself because I wanted to see how this building, my building, treats people it thinks have no power. A few faces dropped their eyes. One woman shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Mr. Collins, Alana continued. When I spoke about leadership philosophy, I told you I believe in structure, accountability, and respect at all levels. But it seems respect here depends on what someone wears, or what color their skin happens to be. Her voice carried a slow, deliberate force, the kind that didn't shout but commanded. I don't raise my voice, she said softly. I don't throw people out, but I remember everything. She opened her folder, sliding the signed documents across the table. Effective immediately, this property and all its personnel are under Monroe Holdings. That includes hiring and firing. Mr. Collins' throat bobbed. Of course, Ms. Monroe. We'll make any adjustments you deem necessary. Alana turned to him, starting with the man who thinks security means profiling. Downstairs, through the glass wall, a small commotion had begun. Two administrative officers had approached the guard station. Mark's voice, faint but audible through the intercom, could be heard protesting. I didn't know who she was. I was just doing my job. Alana pressed a button on the intercom console. Her voice projected through the lobby speakers, smooth and controlled. Mr. Douglas. Mark froze mid-sentence. Every head in the lobby turned upward toward the sound of her voice. Ma'am, Ms. Monroe, he stammered. I didn't mean... She leaned slightly toward the mic. You didn't mean to humiliate me? Or you didn't mean to get caught? The silence was absolute. He looked around helplessly. I was following protocol. Protocol? Her tone sliced through the air. Tell me, Mr. Douglas, where in the Lexington Tower protocol does it say to drag a paying guest by the arm before checking their name? He said nothing. Alana straightened, eyes cold with quiet justice. You see, I built this company from the ground up. I've been called names, doubted, dismissed. I've been told I don't belong in rooms that I later bought. Every word landed like a hammer. I didn't get here by demanding respect, she continued. I earned it. And I make sure the people who work for me understand the difference between power and decency. Mark's face was red, his posture collapsing. I'm sorry. Alana's eyes softened slightly, but her tone didn't. I don't want your apology, Mr. Douglas. I want you to understand. Every time you judge someone by their skin instead of their worth, you insult more than just them. You insult your own uniform. The lobby fell completely still. Even the hum of the fountain seemed to stop. Alana turned off the intercom and faced the board again. This isn't about revenge, she said. It's about reform. If this building can make a woman like me feel small for 5 minutes, imagine what it does to someone without power, without status, without a name behind them. She looked out at the skyline, the city reflecting in her eyes like firelight. That ends today. The room erupted in applause, hesitant at first, then growing. Some clapped out of respect, others out of awe. A few remained silent, ashamed. Mr. Collins approached her quietly. I think everyone understands your message, Ms. Monroe. She nodded once. Good. Then let's make it official. She reached for the intercom again. To all staff, this is Alana Monroe, the new owner of Lexington Tower. Effective immediately, all employees will undergo diversity and ethics training. Respect isn't optional here, it's policy. Her words echoed through the building like gospel. As the meeting adjourned, Alana stepped to the window. Below, Mark removed his badge and handed it to HR, shoulders slumped. The crowd that had once stared at her now avoided eye contact entirely. And yet, she didn't smile. There was no joy in the victory, only the quiet satisfaction of balance restored. Mr. Collins paused beside her. You handled that with grace. Alana's voice was steady. Grace is power under control. He smiled faintly. They'll never forget this day. She looked down once more, eyes calm and knowing. Neither will I. The shift was complete. An hour ago, she was a woman thrown out of her own building. Now, she stood at its highest floor, not as a guest, not as a victim, but as its owner. The world had seen her humiliation. Now, it would witness her reign. The afternoon sun slipped across the glass walls of Lexington Tower, painting streaks of gold across the polished marble floors. The tension that had gripped the building earlier was gone, replaced with a heavy stillness, the kind that follows a storm after it's spent its rage. Down in the lobby, the same crowd that had witnessed a black woman being thrown out hours ago now whispered in disbelief. The same woman now owned the very air they breathed. Mark sat on a bench near the security desk, his badge gone, his radio silent. His hands trembled slightly as he watched Alana step out of the elevator, surrounded by executives who now treated her like royalty. But Alana wasn't looking for attention. Her stride was measured, quiet, the same way it had been when she first walked in that morning, except now every eye followed her with respect instead of suspicion. Mr. Collins approached, carrying a sleek black folder. All set, Ms. Monroe. HR has processed the termination. We've also scheduled the staff meeting you requested. Good, she said softly. I'll speak to everyone before I leave. He hesitated. Would you like me to escort Mr. Douglas out now? Alana's gaze drifted to the guard, the man who'd called her trouble, who'd pulled her by the arm like she was a thief. No, she said finally. Not yet. A few minutes later, the employees of Lexington Tower, from front desk clerks to finance managers, gathered in the marble lobby. The fountain gurgled quietly in the background, a soft soundtrack to the moment of reckoning. Alana stood at the center of the room, not on a podium, not behind a desk, but on the same floor as everyone else. I didn't call this meeting to fire anyone, she began, her voice calm, echoing off the glass walls. I called it because what happened this morning isn't just about one man's mistake. It's about a mindset, one that needs to end. She turned, her gaze sweeping across the faces, some ashamed, some attentive, some afraid. When I walked in today, I was judged before I spoke a word. Not because of what I did or who I was, but because of what I looked like. Some of you watched it happen and said nothing. A hush spread through the crowd. I'm not here to humiliate anyone, Alana continued. But I am here to remind you, respect isn't earned by status. It's owed by humanity. If this building or any business under my name ever forgets that again, I will burn it down before I let it stand on prejudice. A murmur rippled through the crowd, soft, reverent. She paused, her eyes finding Mark again. Mr. Douglas. He stood slowly, hands shaking. Yes, ma'am. You embarrassed me publicly, she said. You treated me like a threat. Why? He swallowed hard. I thought you didn't belong. You looked out of place. Her tone didn't waver. And what does out of place look like to you? Mark lowered his head. Someone who doesn't dress rich. Someone who looks like me before I put on this uniform. The admission hung heavy in the air. Alana stepped closer, her voice quiet but cutting. You see the problem, don't you? You thought your uniform gave you permission to forget who you were before you wore it. His eyes glistened. I'm sorry, Ms. Monroe. I really am. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Apology accepted, but not forgotten. She turned back to the staff. He's not the only one who needs to change. We all do. Because racism doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers through habits, assumptions, or silence. Every word landed heavy, purposeful. When she finished, the crowd began to applaud, not out of obligation, but out of understanding. It wasn't the applause of victory. It was the sound of awakening. Alana nodded once, quietly humbled. Thank you. That'll be all. As the employees dispersed, Mark remained by the desk, unsure whether to leave or speak. Alana approached him again, tone softer now. You know, she said, my father used to work security. Night shifts. He'd come home smelling like rain and cheap coffee. He told me once, power isn't who stands at the door. It's how you treat the ones who walk through it. Mark nodded slowly. He sounds like a good man. He was, Alana said with a faint smile. Don't waste your second chance. Be the kind of guard he would have respected. Mark blinked, surprised. You're not firing me? Her smile was small but real. You lost your badge. But if you're willing to earn your character back, there's a job waiting, community outreach officer. Help train the next round of hires. Teach them what not to do. His voice broke slightly. I don't deserve that. Neither did I deserve what you did, she said softly. But mercy's stronger than anger. He nodded, tears welling up. "Thank you, ma'am." Alana turned to leave, her reflection gliding across the marble like a calm wave. Outside, the city roared, cars chatter life. The clouds had cleared completely now, leaving the sky a deep, forgiving blue. As she stepped out into the sunlight, a small boy selling newspapers on the corner shouted, "Ma'am, you dropped this." He ran up, handing her a folded napkin that had slipped from her hand. She smiled gently, taking it. "Thank you, sweetheart." The boy grinned, revealing a missing tooth. "You're welcome." As he ran off, she looked down at the napkin, smudged with a few faint coffee stains. The same napkin from the cafe that morning, when she had sat across the street, gathering herself after being humiliated. She folded it carefully and tucked it into her bag, almost like a keepsake. A reminder, not of pain, but of becoming. Mr. Collins joined her outside. "Quite a day, Ms. Monroe." Alana nodded, her eyes tracing the tower's gleaming height. Every empire reveals itself, not when it's built, but when it's tested. He smiled faintly. "You've certainly redefined leadership today." She looked at him, the corners of her mouth lifting. Leadership isn't about control. It's about teaching people what respect looks like, even when it's inconvenient. A pause. The wind tugged lightly at her curls. Collins glanced back at the tower. "They'll talk about this day for a long time." "Good," she said. "Maybe they'll start listening, too." Alana took one last look at the building, its glass catching the sunlight, its reflection spilling across her face. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. And for the first time all day, she allowed herself to truly smile. Not the polite corporate one she gave in meetings, but the quiet, victorious smile of a woman who had taken back her dignity without raising her voice. Thanks for watching. Want to see more jaw-dropping moments like this? Subscribe now, share your thought in the comment. The next story will leave you speechless.